जी सर, स्ट्रीमिंग स्टार्ट हो गई है।
Assalamu alaikum. Am I audible?
Yes.
The participants have joined, so I'm
Yes,
talking
sir.
to them.
Yes, sir. 3 of them have joined.
Okay. There is some audio issue with Professor Dr. Adil.
Yes, sir. Seems like because sir, he is not connected yet. His audio is still connecting.
Am I audible, Professor Adil? Other panelists, Dr. Yara, Dr. Omnia, am I audible?
Yes, audible, doctor.
Okay, that's great. But Professor Adil, we are not being able to touch, I believe.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome.
Salam. Thank you.
Dr. Yara.
Checking around.
Thanks a lot for joining.
This is Dr. Naveen.
I think there is some connectivity issue, a voice connectivity of Dr. Adil, Professor Adil. So let us wait for a while.
Okay, you can hear me well, yeah?
Oh, sure. Very
Okay.
clear.
Okay. Dr. Adil, are you with us? I think there is something with the audio.
Yes, there is some problem with it.
Check.
الصوت برضو ما طلعش كده؟
لا حاجه كده اوكي كده دلوقتي حاجه كده في صوت عادي.
صوتي طالع كده يا دكتوره؟
كده صوت
Yes, welcome, Professor Adil. Now your voice is through. Assalamu alaikum.
عليكم السلام دكتور. بروفيسور how are you?
Alhamdulillah.
الحمد لله. يعني it takes time to join you. Yeah.
It's really a pleasure and honor for me.
It's a great honor for me also, Professor. And I think you will start by 12 p.m. by Cairo time. But I surprised I find you early, but it's good for us. Yeah.
Yeah, it is 3:25, so I started a little early. I thought so that we can settle things.
We are ready with Dr. Yara, Dr. Naveen, me, this from Egypt side, and I think Dr. Omnia start now with us. We can start if you like.
I think there is some problem with the names. Can you please see your names being displayed?
Dr. Naveen, yes.
Dr. Naveen is not there.
I'm here.
Okay.
Dr. Naveen, my name is showing on your screen.
Okay. Yes, that is what I'm noticing. So
my name
are there.
okay, there is a
No, it's perfectly all right. Now I know it's no issue. But since audience also see it and it will be available later on online.
My name is not there.
Yeah, it is being reflected as Yara Ibrahim. Your name is being reflected as Yara Ibrahim. Can
you can
change the
rename
name?
yes, you can change it.
If we can, I'll just rename it. Just I'll take a second.
Okay.
And I think I have an option.
Okay, bro.
It is just a second. Now here you are. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. On behalf of the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Aligarh Muslim University, on behalf of Faculty of Commerce, on behalf of all the attendees, because it is also live available on YouTube. So I welcome all the panelists on this occasion where we are being able to be at one platform, at one table, at least online virtually. Now, before we proceed further, I would request the Honorable Chairman of the Department, Professor Nawab Ali Khan, to introduce the participants and welcome. Please.
Am I audible, sir?
Oh,
Am
sure.
visible also?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Okay. Professor Dr. Adil M. Tori. I'm from Ain Shams University, Cairo, Egypt. Dr. Yara M. Ibrahim, faculty member, Finance and Investment Department, Faculty of Financial and Administrative Sciences, Farouk University, Alexandria, Egypt. Dr. Umania M. Muharram, faculty member, Marketing Department and Faculty of Financial and Administrative Sciences, Farouk University, Alexandria, Egypt. Dr. Nivian and Yusuf, American University, Cairo, Director at Influence Public Affairs, Cairo, Egypt. Ahlan wa sahlan, Allah, kaif al-hal? I welcome you all on behalf of our university, on behalf of our department. And with these views that we will listen something new from you, we have been organizing a series of events for the last 1 week. And people from Egypt, if they are with us, so we will be listening about the situation prevailing over there also. So I welcome you all once again, and let us start the deliberations today.
Well, I really have a great respect for Egypt, and my son is young enough. He is almost 13 years old. He is Alhamdulillah Hafiz of Quran. So I was looking forward that someday, inshallah, he will join some of the courses from Egypt. I have heard a lot about Cairo University, and I don't know really. I'm not sure yet, but because it is too early. But I have that sense of respect for Egypt, and therefore I'm really happy that I had the opportunity of meeting all of you. My thanks to Dr. Zad and of course Dr. Tore, that you have really helped me to really a dream come true. It is like that. So I would request to address things and address the COVID issue, which has I think affected the whole humanity in the most unprecedented and in a almost a sudden way. It's a pandemic. It is an issue which is affecting not only the health but a lot of economic, social, and political structures across the world. I think the normal of yesterday is not going to be the normal of tomorrow, and even it is not a normal today. And therefore, we really need to. The idea of this series of webinars is that we learn from each other's mistake. We learn from each other's strategies. We possibly try to work out certain suggestions for the policy makers across the world. We are contemplating the possibilities. In the morning, in the forenoon session, we had a discussion with very learned Professor Ravi Srivastava from JNU, one of the best universities of India, and they had been discussing on the issue of marginal and unorganized sector labor, which is a huge chunk in India, and which has faced unbelievable trauma out of this COVID-19 and lockdown of the economy, which could have been perhaps soothed had there been a little more deliberation on the policy front. Anyway, so each of the nation have different experiences, have different strategies, have different expectations and the possibilities. So I would request the honorable panel members to deliberate on this, because I mean Egypt is no exception. Roughly 10,000 coronavirus patients you have, and more than 500 people have died. So how are you seeing COVID-19 as a challenge, and maybe how do you see the future? Please, can I request Dr. Adil, Professor
Okay.
Adil to... Sure, sir.
I
Please.
will start first of all. I would like to thank you, and this is the first time for all my colleagues from Egypt to join any university in India. It's first time. This is a great honor for us, and I think most of the Egyptians just know about India. It's about movies, about Mr. Gandhi, like this, and maybe for the most of the Indian, they just know about Egypt. It's about pyramids, about sphinx, like this. But it's now we thank you, Professor Umran. This in Arabic, your name in Arabic, Umran, not Imran.
Yeah.
As we say in Arabic, we say thank you very much because you give us a chance to join your university and to give you something about what is Egypt deal with this new disaster, this mysterious disease. We can say mysterious enemy. Nobody knows anything about this enemy, but we have to deal with this disease. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Professor Zaid because he is an old friend, of course, from Gulf area. and he knows some words in Arabic, I know. The Egyptian teams in our panel today, Dr. Naveen, I am from Cairo. Cairo, it's the capital of Egypt. Dr. Naveen, also from another university, from American University in Cairo. It's from Cairo also. Dr. Yara from Paros University in Alexandria. It's north of Egypt. Dr. Omneya from the same university, Paros University in Alexandria in north of Egypt. Why I try to tell you and your panelists from India? Because maybe you don't know a lot of information about Egypt. Okay. I will start, inshallah. I will try to make our discussion. It's very interesting for all the audience and the viewers. I will start by two points, but from its perspective, from myself, its point of view. It's of course just focusing on marketing because I am prof of marketing. What happened when in the first day the Egyptian government told us about a new disease? Nobody knows anything about this disease. Just one day, the government told us we have to stay home. This without any warning. We have to make social distance, work from home, don't touch, washing hands, be safe. All these slogans suddenly we watch it by TV or by by media. We don't know what happened. Just told us it's a new disease. Nobody knows about this disease. It's okay. This is the first time for all the Egyptians, like anywhere in the world, we don't know how to do with this disease. From marketing side, we start to by the government, the Egyptian government, to using what we call social marketing. Social marketing is a part of our science marketing. It started in the world by 1967 in Sweden. Is the first time when the Sweden government tried to change something in the traffic system. It's the first time to use this social marketing to change the culture of the people. What happened for the Egyptian to match with COVID-19? The Egyptians found themselves, the culture start to change, the daily life system it start to change, shopping behavior start to change, and it's a new experience for all Egyptians. What we have to do? Just to use social marketing, because we found ourselves in Egypt. It's a huge recession happened in tourism, in hotels, in aviation, in education, in more than one sectors. It's a dilemma for us. What happened? We just try to ask because we are staying home. It's okay. We are staying home until now. Now we are the middle of May. Till now we using social marketing to tell the people from the government point of view, to tell the people they have to stay. They have to matching with this COVID-19. But nobody can tell us others at what time the COVID-19 it will be finished. We cannot say it. But then now social marketing we are using as a part of marketing to tell the others, tell the Egyptians, we have to stay home. It's okay. After we are staying home, we have another problem. What is another problem? Most of us, we are staying home, of course. The Egyptian, the marketing scholars in Egypt try to change the new thinking of marketing. Before we have traditional stores, just you can visit these stores to buy your items to match with your needs and wants. But now all of us, we have to stay home. To stay home means you have to buy online. We have a huge problem. What is a huge problem? Most of the Egyptians, I focus on the people above 40 years. Maybe most of them, they cannot use online shopping. It's the first time for them to have to try to buy online shopping. But the most of the young people, it's very easy for them. It's okay. If you are focusing only on the elder, it's a big problem. I start to be interested in elder segment from 2001 in applied on Egypt and United Arab Emirates. From that time till now, I try to publish a lot of papers about elder segment. Now we have a big problem for elder segment in Egypt because they are not aware anything about online shopping. Maybe most of them, they haven't smartphones. Maybe they like social interaction just to visit hypermarket or supermarket, just to meet people, to talk with others. But now they have to stay home. It means what? It means we need a revolution in retailing sector. I have to mention one article. It's a historical article. It's published by Doody and Davidson by 1967 in Harvard Business Review. It's about the title. It's about next revolution in retailing. This from maybe more than 50 years. But now in Egypt, as a marketing scholars and professional experts, we have to use the same title again. What is the next revolution in retailing in Egypt? The next revolution, it's about to change from traditional stores because you cannot visit the traditional stores to buy your items to a virtual hypermarkets. To change or to make switching from traditional to virtual hypermarkets, it means you have to ask for a new mindset of marketing people in Egypt. You have to orient it elder by new technology. You have to and using social media to tell them how to deal with online shopping. You have to make something like how can you use like point of purchasing before we can visit a hypermarket, and just by point of purchasing we can choose what we need as an elder segment. But now you cannot visit virtual, you cannot visit the traditional stores. Okay, by virtual stores in Egypt, the government now try to launching how can you use CAM in the in any virtual stores. You can from your home, you can choose your items, and by online you can buy what you like. But it's not so easy for the marketers because we try now to change the culture. We have many difficulties, like what about the e-catalogs? Till now we haven't the e-catalogs. Just from 2 months ago, we used the traditional catalogs. It's a paper, but now we need paperless catalog. We have to change the culture. And what about another issue? What about the Egyptians? They like negotiations when they try to buy. Now there is no negotiation by online shopping, and it means most of the Egyptians. We can focus on elder. They before they like to negotiate about prices. Now they cannot, because in the online shopping, one of the obstacles, you cannot make any negotiation about prices. But we have to tell them about this new culture. And just for 1 minute more, we all of us know the elder. They don't realize about anything about online shop. They just didn't know, like me or like most of the elder in Egypt. We just use our kids to buy online. But maybe some of us they don't have kids. It's a big problem. Okay. The last point I would like to mention I would like to mention is the elder segment in the COVID-19 era. It's a great, it's a huge segment. It is just only 6% of the total population. They are more than 60 years. But it's maybe it's a percentage. It's very small. But most of the elder, they have a lot of money, of course, because they collected money before, and now they try to enjoy by their money. And for marketing new thinking in Egypt, we have to change our campaigns, marketing campaigns, to communicate with them and to make something special for them to rebuy again from hypermarkets by the terminology virtual marketing. Maybe it will take time, but we have to. It means now when we are talking about the Egypt experience during and after COVID-19, it's about using social marketing and for more slogans, new slogans for us. And the second point is how to launching new concept. It's about virtual hypermarket. This is what I would like to say, Professor.
Very correct, Professor Adel. I think you have raised a very valid point, a very important segment of the society that is there with the generation gap, I'll say. And there are cultural issues involved. Each one of us.
Yes, it's a big problem, Professor. And the media start to talk about this problem especially for specifically for elder people, because they cannot move, they cannot buy traditional way, but we have to. We have to.
Thank you, that would facilitate and ease out the buying behavior of the elder generation as well in near future, I'm sure. And that is a class which is comparatively richer class, and therefore the marketers can exploit this possibility to build up a relationship with them. I strongly feel that be it any segment of the society.
Pardon, Professor, because the sound it's not clear for me. Again, please. I cannot hear you, Professor. Maybe something wrong. Okay, shall if you please, you have to move to my colleagues, Dr. Yara,
please,
to talk about one issue about Egyptian economy. Dr. Yara, please.
I'm audible now?
Oh, sure.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay. I will talk about the Egyptian economic outlook during and post the COVID-19 pandemic. So for the COVID-19 pandemic caused a severe economic repercussion due to the interruption and sudden freeze of economic activities without a definite horizon for returning back to normal, which caused panic all over the world. This freeze implemented to slow down the spread of the virus, such as curfews, restaurant closure, suspension of education, limited working hours, halt on international and domestic travel flights. All this has impacted government, business, household, financial market, and several economic sectors due to high level of uncertainty and the exponential spread of the coronavirus. So to better understand how this pandemic severely impacted Egypt, I will discuss three of the major sources of national revenues. First, the remittances from Egyptians working in other countries, which accounted for 25 billion USD last year, is expected to decline as a lot of Egyptians working abroad have returned home, and others were expected to return when the restrictions on air travel are lifted, especially in the Gulf countries. This layoff will affect the economy as it constitutes a major source of national income. Second, the slowdown of the international trade will have a negative effect on the export, and there is a steep fall in the industrial output. In addition to the reduction of the traffic in the Suez Canal, which provided 5.2 billion USD revenues last year. Third is tourism, which is one of the leading sources of income to the economy. This sector has been negatively affected sector, even though the government tried partially healing the pandemic negative impact. However, the government effort will only work if the pandemic lasts for a short period. The longer it goes on, the more severely impacted it will be. The government estimate around 12.5 billion USD loss per year from tourism industry that contributes to 12% of the national GDP. Moreover, the tourist cancellation have already reached 80% in mid-March compared to the corresponding period last year. And as for the financial market, the main index EGX30 has declined by 39% since its peak in February. In addition, the negative economic impact will be strong on millions of poor and working class Egyptians whose income will be reduced, especially with intensifying calls for social distancing. Moreover, a lot of industries will be affected as it has been forced to close, such as a restaurant, coffee shops, commercial outlets, and several industries. In addition, laid-off workers who find no other means of plugging in income will likely to increase the national poverty rate, which was 32.5%. This means that we have 1 among 3 Egyptians fall below the poverty line. Moreover, millions of factory workers will have to stay at home if Egypt imposes an all-out curfew. On the other hand, the government announced that the foreign investment in T-bills and bonds decreased by 50% from 28 to 14 billion USD. In addition, the state budget revenues are expected to decrease by 25% in the next financial year. And for the current year, the growth for third quarter is expected to fall to 4.5% and to 1% in the fourth quarter. And also some of the sectors will find this as time to grow, such as an IT, digital business, capital-intensive industries, which require less people on board. This also includes the IT, advertising market, online application, online digital system. However, any sort of gain will only last for a short term if the pandemic effect was not contained. For the Egyptian economic outlook post the COVID-19 pandemic, the International Monetary Fund has forecasted Egypt GDP growth to hit 2% in 2020. A decrease 5.6% from the last year, but that would make it the only country in the MENA region to achieve economic growth this year. Other countries in the region are expected to have negative GDP growth rate, especially the oil exporting country due to the current oil prices. The IMF also expected that Egypt GDP growth to reach 2.8% in 2021, according to its World Economic Outlook report. In addition, the annual average consumer price inflation rate is expected to reach 5.9% in 2020 and to rise to 8.2% in 2021, which is still lower than the percentage in 2019 last year, which hit 13.9%. But however, even though the rate is lower than the last year, but its effect will be manifested due to this year economic conditions, such as income reduction, layoff, unemployment, which will highly impact the working class in Egypt. For the unemployment rate in Egypt, it is expected to hit 10.3% in 2020 and to increase to 11.6% in 2021, after falling to 8.6% in the last year. In addition to the Egyptian expatriates who will also be looking for a job after the return to Egypt. Likewise, there are 300,000 seasonal workers who lost their job because of the coronavirus, besides workers in the tourism industry who also lost their job due to the decline in the tourism revenues. In addition, the government cuts its growth outlook for the next financial year as it has downward its growth outlook to 2% or 3.5%, depending on the COVID-19 duration. Moreover, the growth projection for the upcoming year had already been lowered to around 3.5% from 4.5%, and GDP figures will be cut by another 30% if the pandemic continues. In addition, the planning minister Halal Saeed expected tourism revenue to reach 11 billion USD in the current year, a down from the previous target of 16 billion USD, which will highly affect our national revenues. On the other hand, the private sector investment will also fall by up to 30% in the next financial year if the crisis continues till December. In addition, the House Planning and Budgeting Committee approved a series of new development fees proposed by the Finance Ministry to help in plugging the fiscal deficit, and the government mobilized a lot of cash to fight the COVID-19. Among these newly imposed or newly high fees are mobile phones, commercial internet bills, pet food, fees for the contract between sporting teams, raw and manufactured tobacco products, imported and finished tea products. All these fees were imposed by the government to cover the cost endured to fight the coronavirus. Based on all this information, I think we are heading toward a new era, like a post-coronavirus era, in which all the countries, despite its level of development and all the industries, have to change, and that change has to be quick and effective in response to this crisis. For Egypt specifically, we were just recovering from the economic downward occurred due to the revolution, especially for the tourism sector. And then we, after witnessing some nourishment to the economy, we had a hard hit from the coronavirus. All of a sudden, hopefully we can all recover this crisis too. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yara. Dr. Yara, PhD holder in finance in Alexandria. Thank you.
That's great. I could see through with her analytical presentation of the facts. It was fantastic, which really projected the whole scenario which the Egypt is likely to have. But as I see that the cascading effect of COVID cannot be estimated right now, because we really don't know how and when this ailment itself is going to be contained. That's a major issue, and therefore all the projections are tentative. And I also see there is another issue in this, that across the world all the nations are almost in the similar situation, and therefore an equal downtrend across the world will lead to national the border issues and the cross-border trade and tourism and travel and all those things will be severely affected, and nobody would be in a position to really nurture that well and promote that. So I think that these estimates of today could fall really topsy-turvy in the times to come. But anyway, we have to evolve. It's an evolutionary thing which we are looking forward, and I am pretty sure that the role of technology is going to be vital, and we have to understand, especially I feel that the Muslim nations will have to understand that we really have to take it as an opportunity to phrase ourselves into the restructuring world, because I feel, and I can see it is almost writing on the wall that it will not be a world order as before. Now, this part of continent will have a little bigger say when compared to the previous things which was primarily driven by USA alone. So those issues would be taken care of, but these are important issues that we will have to address sooner or later. Now I would request the other panelists to have some observations, please.
Yes, Dr. Omnia from Paris University in Alexandria in the north of Egypt. She will start to talk about consumer behavior during and after COVID-19. Please, Dr.
The most vital tool, the consumer. Yes, please, Omaya.
Am I audible?
Oh, sure.
Yes, sure. Okay. First of all, thank you for the invitation for this interesting webinar. Let me extend or talk more about what Dr. Adel has mentioned regarding the marketing and the behavior. Dr. Adel mentioned talking about the elderly segment. Let me take this from another perspective about youth segments or the majority of the population in Egypt. Actually, the median age of the population in Egypt is around 23.9 years old. We have 38% of the population between the age of 35 and 54, followed by 33% under the age of 14. Egypt is considered a consumer economy, meaning that the economy is driven by the consumer spendings as a percentage of the GDP. That's why we should consider heavily consumer behavior in all times, either in crisis or in regular times. So my talk will be classified into three main parts: consumer behavior pre-COVID-19, during COVID-19, and the expected post-COVID-19 after, inshallah, the pandemic ends. Let me start first mentioning some issues that happened to the Egyptian consumer behavior before even the occurrence of the coronavirus. Egyptian consumer behavior has changed considerably after a long economic recession we have faced, coupled with currency devaluation. Actually, based on this, the Egyptian consumers have cut down all the apparel purchase, or most of them, reduced out-of-home entertainment, and tried to save on gas and electricity. And at this point, price became a dominant factor, which traditionally has been a factor in purchase decisions in Egypt for a while. And accordingly, definitely, the luxury items and branded products in all categories, and especially the supermarkets, are sold less and less over time. Egyptians, actually, they now say that they look for promotions and they shop less frequently. And even when they shop, they reduce their quantity of shopping. And consumers tend more to shift to the local products because they are less expensive than the imported products. While having all these changes in the behaviors, the coronavirus pandemic occurred. But actually, we had something positive that happened in a change in the consumer behavior that helped us a lot nowadays. That Egypt is having the largest population of the internet users in the MENA region. Service apps have been growing over the past years in Egypt, which actually helped us a lot from facing now the pandemic situation, and that we're staying home and we are ordering online and so on. So Egypt has become one of the region's largest online supermarkets for supplying and delivering groceries and other household goods. These changes happened before even we know that we are going to have the coronavirus pandemic. But nowadays, what's happening to the Egyptian consumer behavior during the time we are in? Actually, now we are in anxious new territory, especially after the announcement of the WHO that the coronavirus pandemic is far away from being over. This pandemic actually changed the daily life of consumers around the world in ways that have not been unthinkable. Because of the homestay necessity and social distancing measures introduced, the compact of spread of the COVID-19 may have a long-term impact on the consumer behavior, and consumer habits are adapting in real time in the new environment and circumstances. So actually, what happened? In the early stage of the pandemic, consumers were worried a lot about their health and their family's health, whether they can buy for them the basic needs and buy that for themselves, the basic needs, and even the loss of the freedom that we all over the world, we were taking for granted. Those common concerns are manifesting themselves in different ways as consumers adopt new behaviors. Actually, nowadays, consumers' markets are seeing change in pace not witnessed before, offering new opportunities as well as new challenges. One of the most important things happening now is that the diminishing of the idea of the concept of the brand loyalty. Actually, brand loyalty now is of low priority for consumers, as product availability comes in the first place. Consumers nowadays would purchase from less familiar brands if the first choice was unavailable, rather than waiting until the product is restocked. Another important thing in the behavior, as Dr. Adel mentioned, is the online retailing. Online retail and direct consumers offering have enjoyed a significant setup. Actually, around 600K households tried the online grocery shopping for the first time. Many consumers have shifted online shopping, online retailing, relying on more for basic foods and household commodities. An example of this is that Amazon owned an online retailer, a popular online retailer in Egypt called Souk. Souk nowadays, after the combination or the joint venture with Amazon, Souk now is playing the most popular service by consumers across Egypt, or for grocery related products, and for products nowadays such as hygiene, sanitizers, cleaning products. All these, most of the Egyptians, they order through the online retailer Souk. Actually, there has been a noticeable increase in the activity of some sectors in the economy in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic, particularly the online service, not only the online retailing, such as the online fitness and coaching, online purchase of foods. People now are aware of making exercise at home after specifically the closure of the gym. If we are talking about entertainment specifically, then consumers now are spending more time viewing different media, specifically online videos, content such as YouTube, TikTok, and so on. In Egypt, the Netflix usage increased by 70% during the second week of April, which we have started the stay home slogan that we are following. So let me talk that we can categorize the consumer behavior during the pandemic into 4 main groups of consumers. First group, we can call them save and stockpill, which is people, they are not concerned about the pandemic, but they worry about their families and they're pessimistic about the long-term effects. Stay calm and carry on are the second group of consumer behavior. These people are not changing their spending habits, not directly impacted by the pandemic, but they worry about the issue of stockpiling. The third group can be called the cut deep. These people are shopping less frequently and buying only basics, and they are spending less across all the categories of their spending. The last group is called hibernate and spend. These are the majority of people because they are groups of age 18 to 44, who represents the majority of the Egyptian population, are those most concerned about the impact of the pandemic, but best positioned to deal with it. So what is the next step we are talking to? What do we expect after this pandemic occurs? Expected consumer behavior after the COVID-19. Definitely, expectations cannot be true 100%, and we don't know when this issue is going to end. But actually, eventually, the COVID-19 has caused a shift in the consumer behavior in a slightly handful of these new habits, and that will remain in the long term, while others can fade over time. Let's look about some points habits that we predict to stay over. First of all, the online purchasing. Online purchasing is expected to continue, and brands and organizations definitely should apply this service in order to be able to survive. Consumers will continue to deliver services from restaurants and grocery food items, as by time they will find that this is easier for them. And we expect that luxury purchase will decline as consumers will get to reduce their spending. And definitely greater media consumption, especially the online video content, is predicted to have a significant staying power post-pandemic. Brands should consider new ways to reach their audience online, such as through TikTok, YouTube, or depending on the target audience demographics. The last thing I would like to highlight on is because of Egypt was following the 2030 agenda of the Sustainable Development, the SDG goals of having no poverty, better education, lower employment, homeless people, and so on. And due to the general negative effects and impact of the COVID-19 will leave, the era of the CSR, or the corporate social responsibility, is expected to boom by companies for society development, and especially consumers today they are educated for having enough awareness about the social responsibility initiatives by companies. So it's expected post the pandemic that companies invest in improving the society better later on after the drop down in the economy that happened, as my colleague Dr. Yara mentioned. Beyond these expectations, actually consumers want companies to further support the crisis, maybe by donating a portion of the sales to the local hospitals or partnering with other brands to maximize the impact of their efforts. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Omenia, and I must congratulate you, young lady, that you have analyzed the things very well. But I have just an observation from your analysis that what is the possibility? See, as I see it, that the purchasing power in near future is likely to fall like anything. and there will be a structural shift in the demand patterns. The aggregate demand at the national level would naturally be skewed towards the necessity items only, at least in near future, because job is a major issue. As you say, that there will be almost a 3% fall in the GDP, which implies that there will be no more new job opportunities for the youth. And this is going to really escalate the economic issues around. So how do you see that what will be the likelihood pattern of the consumer behavior in this direction? Because when it comes to your age, the youth would really be, I mean, do away with the things, no issues. But the higher segment of the society will be a little skeptical, and I think they will be relatively more cautious while spending the money. So how do you see that? How would it affect the industrial aggregate demand for the things, and consequently the derived demand of the investment and other issues? Because employment is not likely to be there in near future. No new jobs would be there, or not commensurate to the growth in the population of almost every country. And there is almost it is for sure that in near future nobody is going to go for tourism unless it is really necessary, because lots of I think you will endorse that for instance edu-tourism was a very common thing, a very common phenomenon developing across the world, and I don't see many of the conferences except that one online. So how do you see this? How the industry should try to cope with this issue? Because I'm having this from YouTube, this question I have got. So would you like to discuss this?
Yes, actually I mentioned that the demand on the luxury products will decrease by time.
Yeah,
sure. So this matches the idea that people were having less income or unemployed and so on. And another thing I said that the brand loyalty will decrease, which means that people will not focus on their favorite brands for buying whatever home entertainment, clothing, even household shopping. They will only focus on what's available. And again, this is a new shift in after the pandemic ends, because again, it matches what you said, that people will be unemployed and incomeless and so on.
Just off the bit, I'm asking, do you think really would it be a very lasting change? Or is it COVID and around? Because I see there is a royalty in your culture, a royalty in your behavior. I feel Cairo has and Egypt has a speciality. I strongly feel. I mean, whatever limited knowledge I have about Egypt, I feel that you people are royal in nature. So will this switch be relatively very royal? I mean, brand conscious. Very royal.
Yes,
so,
but it's
so that royalty
decrease.
will not be lost in near future, I feel. So maybe this switch could be momentary.
Okay. Well, if I am loyal to an international brand and this brand is not available no more because of the situation we're facing, or even because of the reduce of the imports and exports in the coming period, I am going to substitute it with a local brand, and this is what's expected to happen on the long term for the coming period.
Yes,
could you please, Dr. Omran? I would like to say it's excellent, Dr. Omnia. And Dr. Omnia is one of the young professors in Egypt, the new generation in marketing departments in our universities. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Omnia, for your talking.
Thank you,
Professor.
And now we have to move to Dr. Niveen. Dr. Niveen, she is from American University in Cairo. Dr. Niveen, she is an expert in public affairs with Influence Company in Cairo. Dr. Niveen, she will talk about the governmental efforts to face with COVID-19. Please, Dr. Niveen. Dr. Niveen.
Your microphone is off. Dr. Naveen, your microphone is off. Please switch it on. Yes.
Okay. You can hear me now, yeah?
Sure.
Okay, yes. Sorry for that. Hello, everyone. First, allow me to express my gratitude to be among such esteemed panelists. I'm going to tackle the issue from a crisis management perspective, especially the post-crisis phase or the future. Actually, there are no projections, but it's just different scenarios that we just have to be prepared for. Okay. Let me start by telling you the story of an American movie named 2012. I don't know if any of you have heard about it or not. However, the movie is about dissemination of humankind, or the end of days, as they call it. The movie features a series of destructive natural disasters that were causing a massive death and driving the world to an end, during which we discovered there were secret ships or arcs, as they were named in the film, which were being built in the Himalayas to be used as shelters to ensure humanity's survival in case of any fatal disaster. Some people bought tickets in advance to secure places on these arcs. When the world was coming to an end during the movie, those were the only survivors who started rebuilding the whole new world. Each of them working on their own arc, self-dependence on own capabilities and resources, making the best use of them, just to be prepared for the rebirth of Mother Earth. Taking that movie and applying it to our world now, I found that there is so much resemblance between the two cases. Each ship or arc resembles or looks like each country now, in which people should now start working extremely hard, preparing themselves for the post-pandemic phase, deploying and adapting the concept of self-dependence, utilizing their own capabilities and resources to be just ready when the world opens again, which I assure you will happen soon from an optimistic point of view. However, and despite my optimistic view, still we are facing an unprecedented global crisis that needs an unprecedented management plan, of course. We're looking at the three phases of any crisis management: the pre-crisis, the crisis response, and the post-crisis. It's extremely important now to focus on the post-crisis phase. In Egypt, we couldn't have got, here in Egypt, we couldn't have got the chance to focus on the preparation phase, as I call it, or the post-crisis phase, if it weren't for the successful and effective crisis response from the government, just as my colleague Dr. Yara has illustrated. Egypt was able to capitalize on the reform economic program that had been implemented a while ago, along with pooling all governmental bodies and ministries together. They all collaborated in implementing a resilient counter-cycler toolkit, which put population health safety as first priority, setting accommodative monetary policies, fiscal stimulus packages, and financial measures to ensure liquidity, providing easier access to credit to sustain consumption and help firms survive that disruption. And this is in addition to setting targeted measures to protect vulnerable sectors and groups that were most hit by the pandemic. Okay, and now we have to look for the post-crisis strategy, in which, in my opinion, Egypt has an edge because it started earlier. The challenge here is in the fact that while economic prosperity challenge requires interconnection and integration, the COVID-19 dictates social distance and separation. And so the pandemic is driving the world economy to diminish that integration. And now the question is, what is the most convenient scenarios? I cannot say projection, it's just scenarios to regain a healthy economy. Through my studies in the management department, along with my scope of work that relates to the government relation, allowed me to be in direct contact with what's happening now in Egypt. So let's examine how Egypt had started the preparation phase, which I called before, for after the crisis. Okay. First, Egypt has implemented a localization program for Egyptian products in an attempt to improve the trade balance. For years, let's say countries were trying to remove trade barriers, internationalize their imports, stretching their global supply chains, treating the world as one large conglomerate market. However, with the COVID-19, those interactions have stopped and no one knows for how long. With that low international trade and minimal global commercial transactions, coupled with more and more debts being added to governments to counterpart debt repercussions of the pandemic, the term deglobalization has to be adopted. The deglobalization is contrary to the globalization trend that the world have been adopting for so long. It requires self-dependence on internal resources, as well as the availability of some enablers that should be put by the governments, so as manufacturers and industrials can efficiently substitute imports with locally manufactured inputs. Here, Egypt has embarked on a national program years ago to localize its manufacturers to substitute imports with local production and thus improve the country's trade balance. The government is working hard on securing a healthy working environment for the manufacturers through a set of initiatives that aims at enabling technology, capital, resources. On the other side, the Egyptian manufacturers are working on having a resilient supply chain that is currently more important than having an efficient one. Continuing on improving that program post the crisis will definitely pave the way for a more healthier economy. Second is the digitalization transformation or digital transformation. With the COVID-19, greater digital adoption is inevitable. If it weren't for the effective digital transformation program that Egypt has been implemented under the name Digital Egypt, all new working trends and environment would never have been possible or feasible. The current transformation allowed for smooth transition to a digitalized core operation, work from home environment, homeschooling, e-meetings, e-conferences, e-banking, the webinar that we're having now, establishing digital customer channels, accessing the most recent updated information. In just 36 months and at a cost of 8 billion Egyptian pounds, the digital transformation program was carried out in around 170 governmental services across Egypt. And we have a successful story here to tell that there is a complete digitization of Port Said, a city in Upper Egypt that has been completely transformed into a smart city, as we say. Capitalizing on expanding such a huge project would definitely well prepare the Egyptian economy for the coming period. And it's worth mentioning here that by the end of 2020, around 10,000 youths will be trained in the ICT field, including cybersecurity, data science, artificial intelligence. And that takes us to the next crucial point, which is the importance of investing in people, investment in human resources. And by that, I mean to have a new defined generation. Let me here quote the UNDP when it says, humanity needs leadership and solidarity to defeat Corona. That means working on people education, training, empowerment, which is a cornerstone now for a healthy economy, supporting new mindsets that are flexible and open for accepting different scenarios, preparing them to easily embrace uncertainty, get out of their comfort zone. And now it's worth mentioning here that Egypt was among the early adopters of the World Bank's Human Capital Project, which aims at creating demand for efficient investment in people as a key to economic growth. Last but not least, resilience and solidarity among governments is another crucial pillar in having a healthy economy post the pandemic. Let's say during the current period, a great deal of interrelation between Egyptian private and public sector has been created, as we all see in the news. Continuing on unifying those efforts among those sectors, along with the civil society as well as the innovators, will ultimately create a sustainable atmosphere for growth. That's what we hope for. And finally, I would like to point out that while crisis begins at the threat, effective crisis management can minimize the damage and allow the country to emerge stronger than before the crisis. And let's hope for the best to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Very
Naveen.
true, Dr. Naveen. Thank you. And I think each of the governments, national governments, are trying their level best, no doubt, across the world. But I'm repeatedly getting one question, and I think though it has been partially addressed, that calls for special response from Omenia. That I mean, how are we going to see? The point is that poverty is there in Egypt as well. We know it. Lots of income disparity is there, and naturally, the lower middle class or the poor class will have very little spending in near future. So, and even the higher ups will have a skeptical and the restrictive attitude towards spending. So how do you see as a marketer, and this is a question also to Dr. Adil, I believe, okay, how are we going to encourage the spending of the public? Because I strongly feel personally, I mean, or you give your observation and we discuss, okay, how do we see? How are we going to ensure a higher aggregate demand at the national level so that it put the wheel of manufacturing on rolling?
It's a question to me. Is it true? It's
Sir,
okay.
anybody who feels it's okay.
Okay, I try to understand your, because as you know, we in Egypt, you are not familiar with the Indian accent in English. It's a first time for
I'm
our
sorry.
experience here. No. We try and to understand, but it's
Sure.
not familiar for us. If I understand the right question, you ask about agricultural sector. If it's true.
No, my point is that aggregate demand in the economy is likely to be less. And when there will be less demand, there will be lesser incentive for the manufacturers to put the things on wheel. The manufacturers would not go about, employment will not be generated. When employment will not be generated, people will have no income. When no income, no spending. It will be a vicious circle formed. That is the problem. So how are you going to ignite the spending? How are you going to increase the aggregate demand? That is my question.
Yes. My answer in brief is that we have in Egypt, a stock from everything, as the government try to supply us as a society, and the supply chains. We have a good system for supply chains here in Egypt. It means no shortage for any kind of food or goods, and in our pack. We have a very good supporter system. It's from the military system. It gives us a lot of support to keep the market still balanced between demand and supply. For this reason, we are in safe situation. It's if the COVID-19 is still with us for a lot of months, for many months, it's not. We are not afraid of this, because we know we have good system for supply chains, and even the demand, it will be increased. This is my answer in brief.
Let me just say another point.
Yes, Dr.
The government have initiated a lot of initiatives for that. It provided easier access to credit for the small households, for example. Salaries have never been stopped or decreased. Providing liquidity such that will keep the consumption, taking into consideration that already the Egyptian market is a consumption one, like Dr. Omneya said.
Yes, so let me add that, as I mentioned, that we are a consumer economy. We rely heavily on consumption. Consumption is, we can say, it's a big part of the Egyptian culture. Most of the majority of the people, their social standards is above their financial standards. So actually, consuming in all categories of Egyptians is something that's ongoing, but it can decrease and increase, and it can be maintained in the middle, but we don't know what's the percentage of increase and what's the percentage of decrease, as we don't know when this pandemic will end. But what I want to clarify is that we, in all the social standards, we rely heavily on consumption. So regarding your question for the aggregate demand, I don't expect that it's going to decrease by time, but it can be shifted or tailored to different areas. As I told you, that people are shifting from international brands to local brands, but actually they will still consume over time. If I got your question. Thank you.
I think I appreciate the proactive approach of your government and the positivism of all of you. I wish you a very good luck, because in our country, I think we have somewhere missed this possibility of maintaining the confidence. Actually, through proactive interventions from your government, your confidence is restored. And I think in order to run an economy effectively, it is primarily the confidence, not the money, which matters. If you have the confidence, and moreover, as you are saying, Dr. Omne, that there is likely to be a shift from branded and imported goods to local made goods, that would also be an igniter to the economy of yours in near future. I'm very confident, because that will help the new budding entrepreneurs of your own nation to build up and capitalize this opportunity. So I would really thank you, all of you, because we are running out of time already. And I really look forward and seriously wish that we continue this relationship in near future. I would like to request all of you to be someday we will arrange some other possibilities of your interaction with our students, or I offer my services, and the chairman is there. We offer our services, and some interaction, some better understanding of the things would really facilitate in the long run to all the nations, I'm sure. So thank you very much, each one of you.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
please.
That's
Thank
our
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Professor, to share with us our experience, and it's good for us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Allah Hafiz.